Hello and welcome to my overall thoughts of the winter 2016 anime season. So now that the season is over, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be going over every single anime that I made a first impressions video on and talking about whether or not my opinion changed significantly or whether it stayed the same. Now I get that you guys might not be interested in every single anime that I'm going to cover here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put timestamps down in the description so you can skip to the anime that you actually want to hear about. I'll start with the anime that I dropped after only 3 episodes, and the first one that I dropped was Prince of Stride. The visuals were of a really high quality and the races I found really exciting, so what I was saying to myself was, please, just give me something else, just one more thing to keep me watching. But the story and the characters just gave me nothing. They gave me absolutely nothing. The story was very basic. Their main goal is to win an upcoming summer tournament, which, you know what, that's absolutely fine. Most sports anime have a fairly simple story, but they make up for it by having a team of unique and interesting characters. But Prince of Stride didn't really have that. They were all incredibly generic, and because of that, I just couldn't find myself connecting with any of them, so I just had to skip over this and move on to something else. And what I moved on to was Dimension W. This was incredibly close. It was so close to getting it continued because I loved the world, just the way everything looked so futuristic. It was amazing, and I got connected to the characters very quickly. They were all very likable, at least I found them likable. But the problem was, there were just a bunch of issues that kept holding it down. They constantly kept spouting exposition, and it was really disruptive. It just kept disrupting the pacing for me, and the way they were trying to build up Kyoma and the fact that he hates robots, what they were doing is they kept repeating it over and over. Kyoma, you hate robots. You hate robots, don't you, Kyoma? Oh yeah, you're the guy that hates robots, aren't you? It was just so annoying. Really, really annoying. From what I heard, it seems like Dimension W kind of continued to fall off as time went on, so it's probably good that I dropped out early. The next anime I watched was Ajin. Again, we have another anime where the visuals were fantastic. It's probably some of the best 3D art I've ever seen in anime. But the problem was with the story, specifically with how they paced the story. I just found it so unbelievably slow. I found it really boring, unfortunately, but one thing that I did not take into account when I made my continue or drop video was that I'd already read the manga, so I already knew exactly what was going to happen in the story, so that might have spoiled it for me. That might have made it seem more boring than it actually was. So I was probably a bit unfair on this, but I think my issue still stands. I wish that it just had been a bit faster paced, and then I probably could have continued watching it. Next on my agenda was Girls Beyond the Wasteland. This was bland, cliche bullshit. And that's it. That's basically all I have to say on it. Then we had Phantasy Star Online 2. You know, I probably could just repeat the bland cliche bullshit line here, but this is even more insulting than Girls Beyond the Wasteland because it's just a blatant advertisement for the video game. But I'm not done, because it gets even more insulting with the fact that the source material is really interesting. They could have done something really cool with this, but of course, they just had to go for the lamest route possible. Okay, so those are all the anime that I dropped after 3 episodes, so every single anime that I'm about to mention, I gave a continue, but there was one anime that I originally continued, but I ended up dropping it somewhere down the line, and that was KonoSuba. I loved the first 6 episodes. I have absolutely no problem with the first half of the show. Especially at the end of the 6th episode, there was this really huge climactic event, and the characters overcome this obstacle and they get handsomely rewarded for it. At this point I was saying, okay, this is really cool because now the story is going to start transitioning into a new arc. We're going to stop from having the characters constantly scrounging for every single bit of money they can in order to survive, and now they're going to move into a new stage of their lives. The problem is that that didn't happen. At the very last second, the wall gets pulled out from underneath them and they're set back to square one, and this really tanked my enthusiasm because I knew that now they're just going to keep repeating the exact same thing that they did for the first 6 episodes. Some of you might be a bit confused at this point and saying, wait, hold up, you just said that you loved the first half of this show, so if they keep doing the exact same thing for the second half, that's great, right? Not for me, and not when it comes to comedies, because my tolerance with comedies is incredibly low. You see, I can only see Darkness being a masochist so many times before I get bored of it. I can only hear Megumin orgasming over explosion magic so many times before I get bored of it. I can't stand repetitive comedy, and I especially hate it when they neglect story progress to just keep repeating the same jokes over and over again. Now look, I get it. I get that not all anime are aiming to have this super awesome dramatic plot line, and I get that, I'm probably asking KonoSuba to be something that it was never trying to be. KonoSuba is primarily a comedy, so I do feel kind of silly saying, stop what you're doing, stop telling jokes, and start doing some storytelling. Even knowing my own biases though, it doesn't really help improve my opinion. I just didn't find it funny anymore, so I dropped this at episode 8. So, every single other anime I'm about to mention, I watched to the end, and the first one I'm going to talk about now is Schwarzesmarken. This was never anything great, but it always managed to be enjoyable. The thing is, as time went on towards the later episodes, it slowly became less and less enjoyable because I began noticing a lot of problems with the writing, especially with this one character death that was written atrociously. And as I noticed flaws in the later episodes, I began to look back and say, okay, there were a lot of flaws with the earlier episodes as well that I just completely skipped over. By the end, I wasn't enjoying it anywhere near as much as I was in the beginning, so I can't really recommend this anymore. Speaking of anime that were much better at the beginning, we have Erased. Now I know a few people have said differently, but I thought that the first 3 episodes of this were amazing. They gave me this feeling of exhilaration that I only get when watching something that's truly special. So I was really passionate at that time. I made the Erased video and I said, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was something along the lines of, if this keeps it up, it will be anime of the season. It didn't keep it up, and it's definitely not anime of the season. Very shortly after the 3rd episode, in fact, it slowly started going down, and the first major flaw that I found was Airi's backstory. It was the dumbest backstory I've ever heard. Guys, seriously, don't ever even think of stealing a chocolate bar. It will ruin your life and destroy your family. It also didn't help that they forced this to have the exact same ending as the manga. There were points in here where you could see that they clearly cut stuff out. They cut out important plot details and it hurt it. It made a lot of the scenes feel really rushed. At the start, I would have never thought that Erased would turn out to be just okay. It's not horrible. It's not an awful show, but it's average. And from how much I loved the first 3 episodes, that is a massive disappointment. Next up, we have Showa Genroku Rakugo Shinju, and this alone almost makes up for all the disappointing shows that came out this season. It may very well be anime of the year. I've even heard a few people already calling this the best anime that's come out in like the last 2 or 3 years. Everything here is fantastic. The music, the story, the characters, the visuals, everything is just beautiful. But the most impressive part to me is that it made me care about a topic that I knew absolutely nothing about. I never knew anything about Rakugo before going into this, and if you had have explained it to me, I probably would have just said, okay, that sounds kind of boring, a dude just sitting there telling a story for 10 minutes, but through sheer brilliance, the anime makes that seem really interesting to me. And granted, I'm not a massive fan at this point. I'm not going to go out and start searching for Rakugo shows all over YouTube, but what this anime managed to do is it gave me a massive respect for Rakugo, and that is something that I think is truly praiseworthy. I've gushed about this long enough. The last thing I'll say is that this is the only anime this season that will be making it on my anime to buy list. Now I get that it's not really for everybody, but by any chance, if you haven't checked this out already, it's over on Crunchyroll. Please give it a try. When talking about the season as a whole, I've used this word quite a few times already and I'm going to use it again. Disappointing. There were just so many shows that didn't pan out for me. Like Prince of Stride is a perfect example. I thought that that was going to be my next favorite sports anime and I just couldn't get into it. And then there was the thing with KonoSuba where after the first half I didn't find it funny anymore, and Erased, that didn't turn out to be anything like I thought it would be. The only real shining star of this season was Showa Genroku Rakugo Shinju, and it probably turned out to be like better than anything that came out last season, so I guess that's something at least. So anyway, thank you very much for watching. If you have any feedback, feel free to leave a comment, and if you like this video and want to see more, feel free to subscribe as well. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.